What is that?
A power source that can take you anywhere in space and time.
Get in and out as fast as you can. The longer you're in there, the more your mind will come undone.
One of the things that was really exciting about working on this movie was knowing that what we were doing was probably going to surprise some people that are familiar with the other Ant-Man movies because of the stakes that are involved and the tone of it.
The first two movies were small and contained, and street level, and we knew that if we were so lucky as to get to a part 3, we really wanted to level up the story and the scope of the storytelling in every aspect. And that's why we've gone from a contained crime film to a sci-fi epic war film. And hand in hand with that decision was having these characters go toe-to-toe with the most formidable villain they've faced yet.
We love the idea of pitting Ant-Man against a major Marvel villain. And Kang the Conqueror obviously came to mind. I was a fan of Kang's since I was a kid in the comics.
We've seen glimpses of him in Loki, but we've never met Kang before. We've met He Who Remains.
Just wait till you meet my variants.
Who is kind of a squirrely guy who hides away at the end of time.
And what are you so afraid of?
Me.
This is the version that every other version of him is terrified of. So terrified that they had to ambush him and banish him down to the quantum realm. This is Kang the Conqueror.
Who is Kang?
In the comics, Kang is almost an infinite number of different personas. You need an actor to be able to pull that off. Peyton Reed recommended Jonathan Majors. And then we talked to the Loki team, and they got excited about that as well. So he actually shot Loki first, but knowing he was then going into Quantumania.
I am everywhere.
I talked to Jonathan about this, thinking, my God, what's better than this? You're playing a part, but really you're playing like different characters, and this one in particular, Kang, is the most powerful and deadliest of them all.
Jonathan and I had a lot of conversations about who Kang was, how he carried himself, how he spoke.
Let me take you home.
We talked about Alexander the Great, and we talked about Napoleon, we talked about conquerors. Conquerors who were in exile.
There is a genuine gravitas to Jonathan that he brings to his role. I don't know if he would call himself method, but he definitely arrives on set fully embodying the character and emanating an energy out into the space that very much sort of claims the space and says, I'm here. Because Kang is the conqueror of space and time. And you could actually feel Jonathan doing that in our space and time, in our little sets.
The Ant-Man franchise within the MCU has a very clear rhythm to it.
Hiya, champ. How was school today?
And I had the benefit of stepping into a song that was already playing. And so I got to just sit back, very Kangish, to sit back and just study these characters, you know, and then to get in the room with them on the day, like you hear their music playing, you understand it, and then you can disrupt it. Modok tells me you're a good thief.
Yeah, he stole something from me.
Do not speak when I am in the room.
Kang's suit was a challenge because Peyton wanted it to be as comic book accurate as it could be, but things that work in comics don't always work on camera, and it's the same with Kang. His concept was a beautiful concept, some really good lines, and so initially we made the costume in fabrics, but it started looking like a Roman toga. It just didn't have the strength that Kang needs. So I knew we could do it sculpturally, but we would then be sacrificing movement to a degree, because within the comics they can make beautiful lines, but they can also then cheat those lines when the actor needs to move. The minute I see a concept, I see a design for a costume, the first thing I do is think of that costume and think, right, how do I move my shoulder in? And that's usually where the problems are, around this area. But there was a middle ground where we got the movement and we got the lines. So it has been a challenge getting it done, but the minute Jonathan got into that costume, you could see that it was worth it, and he just looks so powerful.
starting out, they brought the complete costume into the trailer. And I just looked at it, because I knew this is the first time that I'm going to put this costume on, and I don't know when I'm going to take it off again. You know, I will put it on potentially many, many, many more times. But there will only be one first time in which I put this costume on. And then once I put it on, I went, this is it. You know, like, there are very few moments in my life where you go, this is it. And there is a energy within the suit. It literally makes you stand up straight. You know, that's just how it's built. But there's a power in it. It's iconic.
The real dream come true on a comedy level of this movie has been writing for Bill Murray. The guy is a genius, and I tried to bring in all the elements of Bill Murray that I loved over the years and just try to really write it into this Krylar character.
Lord Krylar, now. I fought like hell against that. It sounds so elitist.
We never wanted anyone to guess who he was playing. The internet's full of all these rumors, and no one knows who he's gonna be. We tried to find the deepest cut Marvel character we could, and we found this random character from a random Hulk comic book in the quantum realm called Lord Krylar, and we're like, yeah, let's go with that. It was just a blank slate, basically, for Bill Murray to come in and just bring himself to the role.
This is Jeff, he's the screenwriter. He's writing it as he goes along. The pandemic hasn't stopped him. It's just slowed him down. If you haven't had this, don't try it, unless you want to change your life.
There's nobody like him.
Oh, God, that is so good for me.
Not only is he one of the funniest people on the planet,
She's the leader. I hate her.
but when he goes dark and he goes serious, because he has some moments in this where it's kind of a side of him I personally haven't seen.
I'm having a good time. It's not every day you get to dine with the butcheress of Axia.
I'm sorry, the butcheress of what?
That's what they call her. Because that's what we told them to call her.
We freed Axia.
And then the Conqueror came and made it even more free. He sent the Hunter.
What kind of hunter?
A mechanized organism designed only for killing.
Surprised to see me?
Marvel Comics are weird. They've never shied away from being weird. But even amongst the weirdness of Marvel Comics, the character of MODOK always rose above as being particularly weird. It's just such an odd design, a little bit off-putting, but really great and memorable. And MODOK was always a character that we wanted to get into the MCU somehow, somewhere.
I talked about MODOK in my very first meeting with Peyton. They had mentioned that it should be Darren Cross, and I immediately said, yes, absolutely.
I became the ultimate weapon.
That's what this is?
I pitched a version of Darren Cross that was just a broken man who wanted nothing but to take revenge on Scott Lang.
And here we are again. Face to face.
Why are you just a floating head?
Maybe you could walk us through this, Darren.
You left Darren to die in the quantum realm.
When you look at what happens at the end of Ant-Man 1, Darren Cross, he essentially implodes. Scott breaks the Yellow Jacket suit, and we see him shrink down into a small infinitesimal speck, which to us looks a lot like what going into the quantum realm is. So there was always a part of us in the back of our mind that wondered, maybe Darren survived. But clearly he would have been hurt very bad. He would have been disfigured by this accident. So we started thinking about that, and we started to think that maybe there's an origin story in there for MODOK, and essentially why MODOK has this odd, compressed, giant head design with arms.
It's just so ridiculous and so broad. And that's the fulfillment of a dream I didn't know I had. And the filming technique they were using, it could go one way. It could be like a real pain with dots on your face and you have this camera and you don't really know what you're gonna look like. But it was so incredibly satisfying. It's, in some ways, I feel like the ideal way to act, because even though the whole performance is so based on technology, you're not waiting for lights, you're not waiting for camera, you're not waiting for sound, you're not waiting for hair and makeup even.
Why do you have hair?
Because I'm the ultimate weapon.
It was just me and the rest of the cast in this open space. It felt like a really cool play rehearsal, except that all this rehearsal is being captured as data that can be turned into this performance. And knowing that it's going to be done by the best animators in the world gives you that confidence to just go for it.
Baron is dead! There is only...
It's sort of an actor's dream. It's like Jonathan Majors as Kang, to play the same guy, but a different guy in every iteration.
I'm such a dick.
It's so cool and a real gift.
When audiences sit down to watch Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, they're going to step into a whole new world. But I also think it's one of the bigger door-opening movies in the MCU. There will be a before and after Quantumania, because it's teeing up Kang in a very big way. It's teeing up the future of this very fearsome, very formidable foe within the MCU. And it's gonna help show us where the MCU is going next.